webinar focusing really on innovation, creativity to a certain extent, but for sure also on how the kind of new industries and so forth also have an impact on craftsmanship. If I would frame craftsmanship as in making, it's very similar to what we call manufacturing or production. There's three aspects that need to be highlighted from the point of view of a designer or somebody who creates. Basically, that's the human, somebody who's the client or somebody who wears your product or uses your product. On the other hand, it's about the product itself, and there's different products, smart products. And then there's business. So there's different business models. There's different ways how to make money and also different ways to value a particular kind of product. Between production and the business, there's the business model. Between product and production, there's this kind of notion of on-demand production rather than making a lot of things in batch. And between human and production, there's this notion from user-centered design. So you want to make something that people like and fit and can also pay for. And then there's interesting kind of interfaces between these kind of notions on the side. So between the human and the product, you want to have a certain level of personalization. Between the human and the business, there's this kind of notion of value, which might be economical, but it might also be cultural or different ways. And between product and business, especially now, there's also this kind of notion of product service system. So it's not just a product that you buy, but it's more a service that you see. Two projects that I was involved in and have to do with production to a certain extent, which are now on the left side here, is digital production of a dress for Iris van Herpen, a couture designer in Amsterdam. So there you can really see also that by changing production to digital production, to 3D printing, you can create different products than before. And also the kind of the notion of personalization is certainly there. And also the notion of the value, because it's a design from a famous couture designer. The manufacturing paradigms changed going from the arts and crafts era to the modern era in these different typologies, often described in other things. And at the end, we all use the German kind of notion of Industry 4.0. Whereas the difference between 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 is that there's kind of an increased level of automation and an increased level of sophistication in how things are automated, going from just mechanized looms and weaving systems and so forth towards robots in Industry 3.0. And then from the robots to smart technologies, adaptive technologies, and also more an organizational look at it in Industry 4.0. Based on this kind of notion, there's also notions about how this reflects on labor. What is the role of the employer in this kind of smart factory? Do we have a smart laborer, or do we have an intelligent laborer because everything is done by the intelligent systems? If everything can be automated, then on the one hand, you want to have designers or craftsmen that really know how a robot works, that really know how you can make a 3D print with a particular material. On the other hand, with collaborative design, there's a new interpretation where the designer is more a facilitator, creating templates for other people to use, rather than to be like a unique person that's sitting alone in his or her workshop and making stuff. The example of a toothbrush that is 3D printed based on a 3D scan of your teeth. And with that, you have opportunity to brush your teeth in just 6 seconds. With such a level of personalization, you can make a difference. A similar one with exoligaments, where you'll have a 3D scan, making a scan of a foot, and then based on that, make a 3D print to kind of support the Achilles heel for sports. Another revolution, so apart from this kind of industrial part, is more the academic part, where knowledge suddenly was diffused from the lab to normal people. It was democratized. And one of the most important things was this course that was once given at the MIT called How to Make Almost Everything, by Neil Gershenfeld, who created this notion of a fab lab, a fabrication laboratory. One of the things which sped up this effect was the way of digital sharing. I show the Thingiverse, a repository where everybody can add solutions that are 3D printed. Another thing is educational networks. Then you have the Fabric Academy, you have the Sugar Network, you have the Design Factory Global Network, but you also have the online courses that you can use, like Udemy and Domestika. And then the question is, what is a contemporary way to frame what we do and what can be done? And this is the well-known wheel of the Bauhaus from Walter Gropius, who once made this. It's the Krebs wheel of innovation from Neri Oxman that presented this for a lecture at the Museum of Modern Arts in the USA. On the outside, you have these kind of notions of art, science, engineering, and design. And then in the second, you have the physical, the digital, but also the biological, and then at the end, the metaphysical. And then if you even go beyond that, more in the rows, you would find aspects like artificial intelligence and intelligent artificiality. How can you extend your capabilities with automation? So doing stuff together with a robot instead of just seeing it as a replacement. So these are the two kind of strategies: use augmentation as a superpower or as leverage additional kind of stuff to frame virtual reality and how it can be used in design. It can be used in other things. And normally, if we talk about extended reality, we have this kind of continuum from the real on the left in this picture. And the other side on the right, we have this kind of completely virtual environment. And what you see more and more is that with new devices, we can extend reality in the real world. So this is augmented reality or augmented virtuality. These kind of things help in training, both in surgery, which is in mechanical skills, to train mechanical skills in orthopedic surgery. There's also proof that multisensory virtual reality experiences do better than just visual. It's a wonderful example of embedding smart systems in an instrument that you can use, in this case, as a Dremel to cut away material. In the movie that is shown here, you can see that behind is a 3D environment with Grasshopper. If you move that particular tool around, it will actually track that in 3D. And then if you are inside or outside, it will actually stop the motor, and it will also stop the motion trajectory. So it involves guidance, and it also involves ways to make something with digital help, but the sculptor is still in control. It's not a replacement of a CNC milling system. This is actually a human cutter based on a 3D model. So you can still have your personal signature in this. The final thing I wanted to end up is this kind of notion of democratization. If you have a person that already has a lot of experience and insights in using particular materials stuff, then you go into this area of the métier with fab labs and so forth. You have this kind of notion of makers, where you have generalist attitude or a modernist attitude, you can argue. And you could say, well, everybody can be a maker. Where this out-of-the-box thinking is more important, or this hacking, and it's more focused on opportunities than quality. And of course, this is a tension. If we would be so generalist, and if the digital would be so helpful, then we are in this world where you can actually upload a random skill and use it. Is this the way forward? Is this a way, by opening up all the technologies and the knowledge that we have, do we really give everybody the abilities, the capabilities to be an expert in one hour or one day or 1 week?